Captain Jack Riley of the Earth Defense Force never expected to be the first human to make contact with an alien species. Yet here he was, standing on the bridge of the EDS Resilient, as a massive ship of unknown origin loomed on the view screen. "Sir, they're hailing us," Lieutenant Davis reported, her fingers hovering over the communications console. Riley straightened his uniform. "Open a channel." The alien that appeared on screen resembled a bipedal lizard with iridescent scales and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its voice translated through the ship's eye with a strange metallic quality. "Primitive vessel, you have entered Vornax territory. Prepare to be boarded and assessed." Riley kept his expression neutral. "This is Captain Jack Riley of the Earth Defense Force. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." The Vornax commander made a clicking sound that the translator didn't catch. "Your species is unknown to us. You will submit to inspection or be destroyed." Before Riley could respond, the alien ship fired a warning shot that rocked the Resilient. "Shields holding at 92%, reported Commander Wilson, the tactical officer. Riley weighed his options. Earth's first contact protocols emphasized peaceful resolution, but he had a duty to protect his crew. "Inform them we'll agree to a diplomatic meeting, but we won't submit to a hostile boarding." The Vornax response was immediate. 3 more energy blasts struck the Resilient. "Shields at 65%, Wilson called out. "Their weapons are some kind of advanced plasma technology." Riley grimaced. "Return fire, minimal yield. Target their weapons systems only." The Resilient's kinetic rounds bounced harmlessly off the alien vessel's shields. "No effect, sir," Wilson reported. "They're preparing to fire again." "All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers," Riley ordered. "Lieutenant Davis, continue broadcasting peace messages on all frequencies." The ship shuddered as more plasma fire hit them. Alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Shields critical. 1 more hit and they're down," Wilson shouted. Riley made a decision. "Prep the experimental armor units. We're going to give our visitors a surprise." In the loading bay, Riley and a team of 5 Marines donned what Earth scientists called reactive metallic defense suits, or as the crew nicknamed them, tin suits. The dull gray armor looked primitive compared to the sleek equipment they normally used, but these suits represented humanity's latest breakthrough. "Remember," Riley told his team as they prepared to defend against boarding, "these suits haven't been field tested. The reactive nanoparticle layer should absorb and disperse energy weapons, but don't get overconfident." The hull breach alarms sounded just as they finished suiting up. The Vornax had cut through the outer hull and were entering the ship. "Defensive positions," Riley ordered, raising his weapon. "Non-lethal force only unless absolutely necessary." The first aliens rounded the corner, wearing sleek armor that glowed with power. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. "Surrender your vessel," the lead Vornax demanded. Riley stepped forward. "We can resolve this peacefully." The Vornax commander raised its weapon and fired without warning. A bolt of blue plasma streaked toward Riley's chest. Everyone froze, expecting the captain to fall. Instead, the plasma hit the dull metal surface of Riley's armor and simply dissipated, spreading across the surface in a brief flash of blue light before vanishing completely. The Vornax commander's 4 eyes widened in what Riley interpreted as shock. "What is this?" the alien demanded. "No primitive armor can withstand plasma weapons." Riley couldn't help the small smile that formed on his lips. "Perhaps we're not as primitive as you thought." The Vornax boarding party hesitated, their weapons still raised but uncertainty evident in their posture. Their commander hissed something that the translator couldn't catch, and 3 more plasma bolts fired simultaneously at Riley and his team. Each shot hit its mark, and each dissipated harmlessly across the surface of the tin suits. "Impossible," the Vornax commander snarled. "Your technology cannot be this advanced." Riley kept his weapon lowered, a deliberate show of restraint. "We don't want conflict. We want dialogue. Your weapons can't harm us, and we could have responded with lethal force." We chose not to. The alien commander studied Riley with all four eyes, its head tilting in what might have been curiosity. What material is this armor made from? That's something we can discuss once we establish peaceful relations, Riley replied. For now, I suggest we both stand down our forces. After a tense moment, the Vornax commander made a gesture, and its soldiers lowered their weapons. I am Fleet Commander Draz of the Vornax Hegemony, the alien said. Your unexpected capabilities warrant further investigation. Riley nodded. Captain Jack Riley, Earth Defense Force. Shall we move this discussion to our conference room? In the hours that followed, an uneasy truce formed. The Vornax returned to their ship, and diplomatic channels officially opened. Riley met with Commander Draz in a formal capacity, with both sides bringing scientific advisors. Dr. Anna Lee, the Resilience Chief Science Officer, explained Earth's position. We've been exploring space for less than a century. We're newcomers to interstellar travel. Yet you possess defensive technology that our scientists deem theoretically impossible, Draz replied. Our scans indicate your ship's primary systems are primitive by our standards. Fusion drives, kinetic weapons, basic shield technology. But these suits, the commander gestured at Riley's armor, which he still wore as a precaution. They defy explanation. Dr. Lee smiled. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most elegant. The armor incorporates a reactive nanomaterial layer that absorbs energy and redistributes it harmlessly across the surface. It's based on principles discovered during Earth's research into sustainable energy. The Vornax scientists conferred among themselves, their language a series of clicks and hisses. Draz finally spoke again. The Vornax hegemony has encountered 17 space-faring species. All fell into predictable technological development patterns. Energy weapons always precede advanced defensive capabilities. Your species has evolved differently. Riley exchanged glances with Dr. Lee. Humanity has always been adaptable. Our history is filled with asymmetric solutions to seemingly insurmountable problems. This presents complications, Draz said. The hegemony classifies species by technological capability to determine their status. Your uneven development makes classification difficult. Perhaps classification isn't necessary, Riley suggested. We prefer to meet as equals. Draz's scales shifted color slightly. Equality must be earned in the galactic community. Your defensive capability is impressive, but it is only one metric. As they spoke, Riley received an urgent message on his communicator. He excused himself briefly to take the call from Commander Wilson on the bridge. Sir, we're detecting multiple Vornax vessels entering the system, much larger than the first one. They'll be in weapons range in 20 minutes. Riley's jaw tightened. He returned to the conference room and addressed Draz directly. Are the incoming Vornax ships part of a diplomatic delegation, or should we prepare for another attack? Draz's scales darkened. News of your anomalous technology has reached Hegemony Command. They wish to conduct a more thorough assessment. An assessment, Riley repeated flatly, like the one that involved firing on my ship without provocation. The Hegemony must understand the full extent of your capabilities. Draz replied without apology. It is how we have maintained order among the stars for millennia. Riley's expression hardened. Commander, let me be very clear. Any further hostile action against this vessel or my crew will be considered an act of war against Earth. Draz rose to full height. You are one ship. The incoming fleet includes our most advanced battle cruisers. And yet, Riley said calmly, you still don't understand what you're dealing with. The Vornax reinforcements arrived with an intimidating display of power. 5 massive battlecruisers dropped out of faster-than-light travel, positioning themselves in a formation that effectively surrounded the Resilient. On the bridge, Riley studied the tactical display with Commander Wilson and Dr. Lee. They outgun us at least 50 to 1, Wilson observed grimly. Riley nodded. And they know our conventional shields can't withstand sustained plasma fire. But they don't know everything about our tin suits, Dr. Lee added. She pulled up schematics on a nearby screen. The reactive metallic defense technology isn't just in the armor. We've been integrating it into critical sections of the ship during our refit at Jupiter Station. Riley raised an eyebrow. That wasn't in the mission briefing. It was classified as experimental, Dr. Lee explained. Only about 15% of the hull has the coating, focused around the bridge, engine room, and weapon systems. A communication alert sounded, and Lieutenant Davis reported, "Captain, we're being hailed by the Vornax flagship." The main screen flickered to show a larger, more elaborately adorned Vornax. Its scales bore markings that Riley assumed indicated higher rank. "I am High Commander Vrol of the Vornax Hegemony. Your vessel will power down all systems and prepare for comprehensive inspection, or be destroyed." Riley stepped forward. "High Commander, we've already established diplomatic contact with Commander Draz. There's no need for threats." Draz was not authorized to negotiate, Vrol replied coldly. "The hegemony does not negotiate with pre-assessment species. You will comply within 5 of your minutes, or we will open fire." The transmission cut off abruptly. Riley turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Dr. Lee, divert all power to the sections protected by the reactive coating. Commander Wilson, ready all weapons, but hold fire unless I give the order." "Sir," Wilson hesitated. Conventional weapons had no effect on the smaller Vornax ship. Riley smiled grimly. "That's why we'll be using unconventional ones. Prepare the graviton disruptors." The graviton disruptors were another experimental technology designed to temporarily distort local gravity fields. They weren't lethal. They couldn't destroy a ship, but they could potentially disable one by disrupting its internal systems. Exactly 5 minutes later, the Vornax opened fire. Multiple plasma streams struck the Resilient simultaneously. "Hull integrity holding in protected sections," Wilson reported with surprise. "Unprotected sections showing damage. Shields completely down." "Return fire," Riley ordered. "Target the lead vessel's propulsion systems with the graviton disruptors." The Resilient fired what appeared to the Vornax as simple energy beams. They struck the lead battlecruiser, which immediately began to drift out of formation. "Direct hit," Wilson confirmed. "Their engines are offline." The Vornax responded with even heavier fire, concentrating on the sections of the Resilient that showed damage. The ship shuddered violently. "We can't take much more of this," Wilson warned. "The reactive coating is holding, but structural integrity in unprotected areas is failing." Riley made a decision. "Target all 5 ships with graviton pulses, full spread." The disruptors fired again, this time hitting all 5 Vornax vessels. Each ship began to drift, their weapons falling silent. "Their systems are temporarily disabled," Dr. Lee confirmed. "The gravitational distortion interferes with their plasma containment technology." Riley opened a channel. "High Commander Vrol, this is Captain Riley. As you can see, we could have disabled your vessels at any time. We chose restraint. Now shall we discuss diplomatic relations between our peoples as equals, or do you need further demonstration of human capabilities?" There was a long pause before Vrol responded, his voice containing a new note of caution. "Your weapons technology is unexpected. Just like our defensive technology," Riley replied evenly. "Humanity specializes in the unexpected, High Commander. It's kept us alive on a planet that tried to kill us at every turn." For the first time, uncertainty showed in the Vornax leader's posture. "The hegemony will require time to reassess your species classification." Riley allowed himself a small smile. "Take all the time you need. In the meantime, I suggest a cessation of hostilities and the establishment of a neutral zone for further discussions." As the communication ended, Lieutenant Davis turned to Riley. "Sir, do you think they'll actually negotiate now?" Riley looked at the disabled Vornax fleet on the view screen. "They don't have much choice. Their entire strategic approach is based on technological superiority. We've just shown them that technology doesn't always develop in the way they expect. Dr. Lee nodded. What they saw as primitive tin suits turned out to be more advanced than their plasma weapons. It's going to force them to reconsider a lot of assumptions. And that, Riley said, might just be humanity's greatest contribution to the galactic community, teaching even ancient species that there's always something new to learn. 3 days of tense negotiations followed. The Resilient had sustained significant damage to its unprotected sections, but remained operational. The Vornax fleet had recovered from the graviton disruption, but maintained a respectful distance. Riley sat in his ready room, reviewing the preliminary diplomatic agreement with Dr. Lee and his newly appointed diplomatic officer, Commander Maria Torres. They're still being evasive about their technology, Torres noted, while demanding extensive information about ours. Riley nodded. Classic asymmetric negotiation tactic. They're trying to regain the upper hand. What concerns me, Dr. Lee interjected, is their particular interest in Earth's location. They've asked multiple indirect questions trying to pinpoint our home system. Riley frowned. I noticed that too. Their official explanation is proper diplomatic protocols requiring formal territorial recognition, but it feels off. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lieutenant Davis entered with a data tablet. Sir, we've decoded some of the transmissions between the Vornax ships. Our linguists and AI have been working on it since the initial contact. Riley took the tablet. What did they find? It's concerning, sir. The Vornax aren't just assessing us for diplomatic relations. They're identifying potential threats to something they call the hierarchy. Riley scrolled through the translated messages, his expression darkening. According to this, the Vornax aren't the top species in their alliance. They're intermediaries for a more advanced species that remains hidden. Torres leaned forward. A proxy civilization. That's why their technology seems inconsistent. They're only permitted certain advancements. And any species with unexpected technology is flagged for. Riley paused, reading further, containment or elimination. The implications hung heavily in the room. We need to warn Earth, Dr. Lee said quietly. Riley stood up. Lieutenant Davis, prepare a secure transmission to EDF Command. Encrypt it using the quantum protocol. And schedule another meeting with High Commander Vroll. I think it's time we showed some cards of our own. An hour later, Riley faced Vroll across the conference table aboard the Resilient. This time, Riley had worn his tin suit again, a silent reminder of humanity's unexpected capabilities. High Commander, our discussions have been productive, but not entirely honest, Riley began. Vroll's scales shifted slightly. Explain. You've been assessing humanity as a potential threat to the hierarchy, not as a diplomatic partner, Riley said bluntly. You've also been trying to determine Earth's location, while revealing very little about your own territory. The Vornax commander's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Your accusations are unfounded. Riley placed a data tablet on the table, displaying the translated Vornax transmissions. We've decoded enough of your communications to understand the basics. The Vornax hegemony serves as a buffer between emerging species and a more advanced civilization. You're tasked with containing or eliminating potential threats. Vroll fell silent, calculating. Here's what's going to happen, Riley continued. We're going to establish genuine diplomatic relations, not assessment, not containment, equal partners. Or we can end this conversation and prepare for what comes next. You don't understand the forces you're challenging, Vroll finally said, voice low. The hierarchy has maintained galactic stability for 50,000 years. Species that develop, unpredictably, have historically caused catastrophic conflicts. Or innovation, Riley countered. Evolution doesn't follow a straight line, Commander. Neither does technological development. Vroll studied Riley for a long moment. I will consult with my superiors. But understand this, Captain. You are one ship. If the hierarchy deems humanity a threat, your entire civilization will face consequences. After Vroll departed, Commander Wilson approached Riley in the corridor. "Sir, we've detected unusual energy readings from the Vornax flagship. They may be preparing some kind of weapon we haven't seen yet." Riley nodded grimly. "Or calling for reinforcements. Either way, our window for action is closing." "The damage to our hull is significant," Wilson reminded him. "If they launch a coordinated attack—" "They won't," Riley interrupted. "At least, not immediately. They still don't know the full extent of our capabilities, and that makes us dangerous. Fear will keep them cautious a little longer." Riley returned to the bridge and addressed his crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves in a uniquely human situation. Outgunned but not outmatched. The Vornax and their hidden masters have encountered something they don't understand, and that gives us an advantage." He brought up a star chart on the main display. "We're going to use that advantage to secure humanity's future in this galaxy, not through dominance or submission, but through the one thing that's always defined us: adaptation." The crew looked at him expectantly, waiting for orders that would determine not just their fate, but potentially Earth's as well. The next 12 hours passed in a flurry of activity aboard the Resilient. While maintaining the appearance of awaiting the Vornax response, Riley had his crew working on multiple contingency plans. In engineering, Dr. Lee oversaw the application of the remaining reactive coating material to critical hull sections. "We don't have enough to cover more than another 5% of the ship," she reported to Riley, "but I've prioritized the areas most vulnerable to plasma weapons." In the ship's laboratory, a team worked to reverse engineer aspects of Vornax technology based on sensor readings and debris collected from the earlier skirmish. "We've identified a pattern in their communication frequencies," Lieutenant Davis explained, showing Riley a complex waveform on her screen. "They use quantum-entangled particles for instantaneous communication across vast distances." "Can we intercept it?" Riley asked. Davis shook her head. "Not exactly, but we might be able to create enough quantum noise to temporarily disrupt it." Riley nodded thoughtfully. "That could buy us time if things go south. Keep working on it." In the armory, Commander Wilson was modifying the ship's remaining graviton disruptors. "We're reconfiguring them to create a more focused effect," he explained. "Less area of effect, but potentially capable of targeting specific systems within a ship rather than disabling the entire vessel." Riley's communicator chimed. "Captain, Vornax flagship is hailing us," came the bridge officer's voice. "On my way." When Riley reached the bridge, he found not only High Commander Vroll on the screen but another figure, a being unlike any he had seen before. It appeared almost crystalline, with a translucent body that refracted light in hypnotic patterns. When it spoke, its voice had an echoing quality that seemed to resonate directly in Riley's mind. "I am Nexus Coordinator Thalax of the Hierarchy," the crystalline being announced. "Your encounter with the Vornax hegemony has been enlightening." Riley maintained his composure despite his surprise. "I'm Captain Jack Riley of Earth. I wasn't expecting to meet a representative of the hierarchy so soon." "Unusual circumstances warrant unusual responses," Thalax replied. "Your species presents an anomaly in our extensive catalog of civilizations. Most develop along predictable technological paths. You have not." "Innovation often means finding unexpected solutions," Riley said. "Indeed, this quality makes you both valuable and dangerous." The crystalline being shifted, light playing through its form. "The hierarchy maintains order through predictability. Species that develop asymmetrically have historically disrupted that order." Riley chose his next words carefully. "With respect, Coordinator, diversity of approach leads to stronger solutions. A galaxy where everyone follows the same development path is vulnerable to the same weaknesses." Thalax was silent for a moment. An interesting perspective. It aligns with certain minority views within the hierarchy. This was unexpected. Riley detected what seemed like political nuance. Are there differing opinions on how to approach new species? The hierarchy is not monolithic, despite what the Vornax may have implied, Thalax acknowledged. Some advocate for strict containment protocols for anomalous species. Others see potential value in controlled integration. Riley seized the opening. And which view do you represent, Coordinator? I represent those who study rather than fear the unknown, Philax replied. Your tin suits, as your crew calls them, demonstrate an approach to energy management that our scientists find intriguing. The conversation had taken a turn Riley hadn't anticipated. Are you proposing a scientific exchange rather than a military standoff? The hierarchy has maintained stability for millennia through knowledge, Captain. Force is merely one tool among many. Philax's crystalline form pulsed with inner light. I propose a probationary integration. Your ship will be escorted to a hierarchy research outpost where your technology will be studied. In exchange, you will gain access to certain hierarchy knowledge databases. Riley frowned. That sounds more like containment than exchange. We came here to explore and establish diplomatic relations, not to be research subjects. Consider the alternative, Vrul interjected harshly. The containment directive would authorize immediate action to neutralize potential threats. Philax made a gesture that silenced the Vornax commander. What Commander Vrul fails to understand is that your demonstrated capabilities already make such approaches impractical. Your defensive technology renders conventional force ineffective, and your graviton weapons suggest other unexpected developments. Riley recognized the implicit acknowledgement. The hierarchy wasn't certain they could defeat the Resilient without significant losses. It was a negotiating position he could work with. Perhaps a third option, Riley suggested. We establish a formal diplomatic channel between Earth and the hierarchy. Limited technology exchange under mutually agreeable terms. Both sides maintain their sovereignty and security. Philax's crystalline form shimmered. An unusual proposal. It will require consultation with the consensus. Of course, Riley agreed. While you consult, we'll maintain our current position and continue peaceful scientific observations. After the communication ended, Commander Torres approached Riley. Sir, do you trust this Philax? Riley shook his head. Not entirely. But what's significant is that the hierarchy is divided on how to handle us, and division means opportunity. For negotiation, Torres asked. For changing the game entirely, Riley replied. The hierarchy has maintained control by keeping species isolated and dependent. What happens when those species start talking to each other directly? Understanding dawned on Torres's face. You're thinking bigger than just Earth hierarchy relations. Riley nodded. Much bigger. Lieutenant Davis, how soon can we implement that quantum communication disruption? Davis straightened. 4 hours, maybe less. Make it 2, Riley ordered. I think we're about to have a very narrow window of opportunity. While the hierarchy consulted their consensus, Riley put his plan into motion. The first step required a calculated risk. Lieutenant Davis, begin broadcasting on all frequencies used by the 17 species mentioned in the Vornax database, Riley ordered. Use the universal mathematical sequence as an attention signal, followed by our first contact protocol message. Sir, Davis hesitated. Won't the Vornax detect the broadcasts? Counting on it, Riley replied with a tight smile. But they won't expect us to use their own communication protocols against them. Commander Wilson approached with a tactical update. Captain, we've analyzed the Vornax fleet patterns. They maintain a rigid formation doctrine, highly organized but predictable. If we needed to break through their blockade, there's a recurring gap in their coverage every 47 minutes. Good work. Have a course plotted, but don't input it into the navigation system yet. Riley turned to Dr. Lee. What about the quantum disruption device? Ready, sir. Once activated, it should create enough interference to temporarily block communication between the Vornax ships and the hierarchy. Based on our analysis, the effect will last approximately 20 minutes before their systems adapt. That's our window, Riley confirmed. Commander Torres, status on the diplomatic package. Torres nodded confidently. Complete, sir. a comprehensive introduction to humanity, our philosophical and ethical frameworks, scientific achievements, and proposed principles for interspecies relations. Everything any civilization would need to understand us as potential allies rather than threats. And the special edition we discussed. Torres smiled. Included, the Vornax database contained enough information about the other species for us to customize messages that would resonate with each culture's particular concerns about hierarchy oversight. Riley addressed his senior staff. What we're attempting has never been done before. The hierarchy has maintained control by keeping species isolated, playing them against each other while presenting themselves as the only option for advancement. We're going to change that paradigm. He stood and surveyed the determined faces around him. They expected to find a primitive species in tin suits. Instead, they found humans, adaptable, innovative, and unwilling to accept arbitrary limitations. Let's show them what that really means. The plan launched precisely when the Vornax formation created its predictable gap. The quantum disruption device activated first, temporarily severing the hierarchy's instantaneous communication network. Simultaneously, the Resilient broadcast its customized messages to all 17 species in the Vornax database, using the very communication protocols the hierarchy had established. As expected, the Vornax reacted immediately. Their ships broke formation to intercept the Resilient, which was already moving at full speed through the gap in their blockade. They're firing, Wilson reported as plasma bolts streaked past the ship. Evasive pattern Delta, Riley ordered calmly. Deploy the graviton disruptors, targeted configuration. The modified weapons fired, not disabling entire ships, but precisely targeting their weapons systems. 3 Vornax vessels suddenly found their plasma cannons offline. Sir, we're being hailed by multiple non-Vornax frequencies, Davis reported with surprise. 5. No, 7 different species are responding to our broadcast. Riley allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Open channels to all of them. Transmit the full diplomatic package while we still have clear communications. On the main view screen, split into sections, representatives of various species appeared, some insectoid, some vaguely humanoid, others defying easy description. Each received the same core message. The hierarchy had been controlling their development. Earth offered an alternative approach to interstellar relations, and together they could establish a new framework based on mutual respect rather than enforced hierarchy. Vornax flagship is breaking pursuit to intercept our transmissions, Wilson warned. Too late, Riley said confidently. The message is out. The quantum disruption began to fade as hierarchy systems adapted. Almost immediately, Nexus Coordinator Thalax appeared on a priority channel, its crystalline form pulsing with what Riley interpreted as agitation. Captain Riley, you have violated the terms of our discussion. This unauthorized contact with Protectorate species was never forbidden in our agreement, Riley interrupted smoothly. We agreed to maintain position and continue peaceful scientific observations. Learning about our galactic neighbors falls well within those parameters. This is not observation. This is interference. Riley's expression hardened. No, Coordinator. This is introduction. For too long, the hierarchy has kept these civilizations isolated from each other, dependent on your approval for advancement. That ends today. Thalax's form pulsed rapidly. You cannot comprehend the chaos you may unleash. The consensus will not. The consensus is already divided on how to handle species like mine, Riley pointed out. And now 17 other civilizations know they're not alone in questioning hierarchy methods. How many of your own people have wondered if there's a better way than rigid control? For the first time, the crystalline being seemed at a loss. We don't want to dismantle a hierarchy, Riley continued in a more conciliatory tone. We want to transform it, from a system of control to a genuine forum for cooperation. Your knowledge and experience are valuable, but so is the innovation that comes from diversity of approach. New messages flooded in as species across hierarchy space responded to Earth's diplomatic initiative. Some expressed skepticism, others immediate interest, but all engaged, breaking centuries of isolation. Commander Torres looked at the incoming responses with wonder. It's working. They're talking to each other, not just to us or the hierarchy. Riley nodded. The first step toward genuine interstellar community. Not a hierarchy, but a network. Philax's form had stabilized, its light patterns slower and more measured. Your species truly is unpredictable, Captain Riley. What you have done cannot be undone. That's the idea, Riley replied. The question is, will the hierarchy adapt along with everyone else, or cling to an order that's already changing? The crystalline being was silent for a long moment. I will bring this development to the consensus. Their response may surprise you, Captain. Perhaps even as much as you have surprised us. 3 months later, the Resilient approached Earth, escorted by an unprecedented diplomatic fleet. Representatives from 14 different species, including the Vornax and a hierarchy delegation led by Philax, had accepted humanity's invitation to a galactic summit. On the bridge, Riley watched the blue-green sphere of Earth grow larger on the view screen. After everything they'd experienced, the sight of home affected him more deeply than he'd expected. Transmission from Earth Defense Command, Sir, Lieutenant Davis reported. Admiral Patel sends her congratulations and says, and I quote, "Your reckless brilliance has rewritten our place in the galaxy, Captain." Riley smiled. Tell the Admiral we're just getting started. Commander Torres joined him at the view screen. The summit preparations are complete. Every Earth nation has sent representatives. It's the largest diplomatic gathering in human history, and the first of its kind for the galaxy, Riley added. A meeting where all participants are recognized as equals, regardless of technological development stage. Torres nodded. The hierarchy representatives still seem uncomfortable with the format. No assigned seating based on status, open access to all discussion topics. They'll adapt, Riley said confidently. Philax and the progressive faction already support the new approach. Even some of the traditionalists are coming around, now that they've seen the benefits of collaborative innovation. Dr. Lee approached with a data tablet. Speaking of innovation, the joint research team has made remarkable progress. The combination of our reactive material technology with our Taxian energy manipulation principles has yielded a completely new form of defensive system. And that's just the beginning, Riley said. 17 species, each with their own unique scientific approaches, sharing knowledge freely instead of through hierarchy gatekeepers. Commander Wilson joined the conversation. The military implications are significant too. The Vornax have been surprisingly forthcoming about plasma weapons technology now that we're allies. Combined with our graviton systems, we're developing defenses that would have been impossible for either civilization alone. Riley turned to address his entire bridge crew. What started with a misunderstanding about tin suits has transformed into something none of us could have predicted. Not just new technology, but a new way for civilizations to interact. As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Riley reflected on the journey. A single ship, outgunned but not outmatched, had changed the course of galactic politics not through superior firepower, but through a uniquely human approach, challenging assumptions, building connections, and refusing to accept arbitrary limitations. The Resilient entered Earth orbit, taking position alongside vessels of designs humans had never imagined until now. Ships that had once been potential enemies now arrived as partners in a new galactic community. Captain, Davis called, we're receiving welcome messages from every ship in the diplomatic fleet. They're using the shared communication protocol, the one we developed during our journey home. Riley nodded in satisfaction. Reply with our thanks, and transmit the final summit schedule to all vessels. As the crew prepared for the historic meeting, Riley took a moment to examine one of the tin suits now displayed prominently in the ship's conference room. The dull gray surface showed scorch marks from Vornax plasma fire, battle scars that had become symbols of humanity's unexpected entry onto the galactic stage. Philax entered the conference room, its crystalline form glowing softly. Your museum piece has generated considerable interest among my colleagues, the hierarchy coordinator observed. Some still cannot comprehend how such a seemingly primitive material could deflect our most advanced weapons. That's because they're still thinking linearly, Riley replied, expecting all civilizations to follow the same technological path. A perspective that is rapidly changing, Philax acknowledged. The consensus has officially recognized the value of asymmetric development. What you call thinking outside the box is now being studied as a philosophical discipline within our educational systems. Riley smiled. And the containment directive, formally suspended pending a complete review. Philax's form shimmered in what Riley had come to recognize as amusement, though I suspect it will be replaced with something more aligned with your concept of diplomatic engagement. A call came through from Earth. Captain Riley, came Admiral Patel's voice. The Security Council is ready to begin the welcoming ceremony. You and your crew are requested to lead the procession. We'll be right down, Admiral, Riley responded. He turned to Philax, ready to make history. The crystalline beam's form brightened. Your species has taught us that history is not a fixed path, but one of constant reinvention. Yes, Captain Riley, I believe I am. Together, they made their way to the shuttle bay where the rest of the Resilience senior staff waited. As they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the summit location, Riley took one last look at his ship through the viewport. The Resilient had lived up to its name, carrying humanity's spirit to the stars and bringing back a future none of them could have imagined. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, the hull glowing briefly as they passed through the outer layers. Below, the gleaming structures of New Geneva spread out, the purpose-built diplomatic complex shimmering in the sunlight. Landing pads surrounded the central dome, each occupied by shuttles and transport vessels of wildly different designs, representing the diversity of the gathered species. Look at that, Commander Wilson said quietly. 3 months ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. And now we're hosting the first truly equal galactic summit in known history, Torres added. As they touched down, Riley saw the honor guard waiting to escort them, a mix of humans and representatives from each visiting species standing side by side. No hierarchy, no predetermined status, just mutual respect. The main doors of the summit hall opened as they approached. Inside, hundreds of delegates from Earth and beyond had gathered, the buzz of translators working overtime as species that had never met before engaged in direct communication, many for the first time. Admiral Patel greeted them at the entrance, resplendent in formal dress uniform. Captain Riley, your crew has done humanity proud. The defensive technology from your tin suits has already been adapted for numerous peaceful applications. Energy management systems based on the reactive coating are being implemented in power grids worldwide. Riley nodded. That's just the beginning, Admiral. The Artaxians have agricultural techniques that could end food scarcity. The Vornax, for all their initial hostility, have medical technology centuries ahead of ours. And what of the hierarchy? Patil asked, glancing at Philax. We are evolving. The crystalline being responded. For 50,000 years, we believed order came from control. Captain Riley and his crew have demonstrated that true stability comes from connection and mutual growth. As they entered the main chamber, the assembled delegates rose in respect. Riley felt the weight of the moment. How a single encounter, a misunderstanding about a simple defensive technology, had cascaded into a complete reimagining of galactic relations. At the center of the chamber stood a symbolic display, one of the tin suits positioned alongside artifacts from each participating civilization, a physical representation of the diverse paths to advancement. Riley took his place at the Earth delegation's table, noticing that it formed part of a perfect circle with all other species. No head, no hierarchy, just equals meeting as equals. Admiral Patel approached the central podium. Distinguished representatives, I call this first galactic summit to order. 3 months ago, a single Earth vessel encountered the unknown and, instead of retreating, reached out in peace. Today, we gather not as separate species divided by development or origin, but as a community united by curiosity, respect, and the shared desire for a better future. As the summit officially began, Riley exchanged glances with his crew. The people who had stood beside him when they faced annihilation, who had helped transform a potential war into an unprecedented peace. Dr. Lee leaned over and whispered, "Not bad for a ship with primitive technology and suits made of tin, wouldn't you say?" Riley smiled. Humanity has always been underestimated, by ourselves as much as by others. Perhaps that's our greatest strength. Around them, the future of the galaxy was taking shape, not as a hierarchy ruling from above, but as a network connecting across the stars. And it had all begun because what aliens thought was a tin suit had just deflected plasma fire, forcing everyone involved to question their assumptions and open their minds to new possibilities. As Riley looked around at the unprecedented gathering, he knew humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or submission, but through the uniquely human gift of turning adversity into opportunity, limitations into innovations, and potential enemies into allies. The resilient had lived up to its name, and so had humanity.